My father grew up in Europe, and when he moved away from home, he moved to Australia for a certain amount of time. And while he lived in Australia, he picked up a boomerang. When he moved to the United States of America, he had the boomerang with him, and I grew up and I remember this boomerang in the household. And I always kind of wanted to build one. I've owned boomerangs that were store-bought, but I said, heck, I think I'd like to build one. So this is today's project. I'm going to build a boomerang. The research I did was the inside angle here from one wing to the other needs to be 107 degrees. All right, so now we have a stick in the shape of a boomerang. If I were to throw this now, it would go straight. It would not boom or rang. Oh, Mr. Boomerang, come back to me. Oh, no, it didn't. What is wrong with you, Boomerang? You look like a boomerang, but you don't act like one. So, what I need to do is to create the airfoil. One side is going to be just like a plane's wing. One side is going to be flat, and the other side is going to have an airfoil shape like a wing. So one side of each wing is going to have a pointed side and then a rounded side. I have been shaping the boomerang, and first couple throws it didn't go very far, but it's been getting better, but I still have a problem. My boomerang won't come back. My boomerang won't come back. I wave the thing all over the place till I'm red in the face. My boomerang won't come back. So I'm gonna keep on fooling around with it, and I hope that I get to a point where my boomerang will come back. All right, the concept is it's like a airplane wing. You have a rounded side and then a flat side that comes to a point. Now, on one wing, you have a round side on the outside and a flat side that comes to a point. And on the other wing, you've got a rounded side on the inside and comes to a point on the outside. The way you're supposed to throw it is you're supposed to hold it in such a way that when it spins, the rounded side is going to be the leading edge at all times. You're supposed to throw it like this. So you want it to spin. Now, either my design is not very good, or I made a mistake with it, or I'm not good at throwing it, because still my boomerang won't come back.
Boomerang came back.
In all honesty, I'm getting a little frustrated with this boomerang. Nothing I do is making any difference. I saw somebody say, oh, you need to make sure it's balanced. Well, it's balanced. It still flies straight with the little curve near the end. I've got the trailing edge and the leading edge rounded off, and I saw a site that said you need to make sure you have certain shape on the leading edge, which I did, and I went through all this, and I saw a video, and this guy is obviously Australian because he said good day, and he was using very thin piece of plywood. Now this is a 1/2 inch thick, or just shy of, and it's possible that this plywood is just too thick. So I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to try it with a thin piece of plywood, and we'll see what happens from there. So this whole experiment started out with me seeing a video on how easy it is to make and throw a boomerang. There is a lot of information on the internet and in YouTube, but very little of it actually is helpful. They give you a bit of the pieces of the puzzle, and then they don't give you the whole story. You know, they say cut it this way or sand it that way or do this thing or that thing, and then they don't tell you any of the details that you really need. One of the things is, now this is my first boomerang that I made, is that first thing I found out is that boomerangs are left-handed and right-handed. Okay, when you throw the boomerang, you're going to have the rounded wing shape to your hand, and you're going to have this facing forward like this. All right, so if you make you need a left-handed one, this rounded side needs to be here, and instead of a wedge shape, right? So you have a rounded shape and a wedge shape, a rounded shape and a wedge shape for right-handed. For the left-handed, it'll be exactly the opposite. So this is what we're gonna do. So this is the first attempt that I made. Now when you're throwing a boomerang, the idea is you're not just gonna throw it, you're going to also put a little twist in it, okay? So that hopefully it'll come back. So here, and then you're not going to throw it just vertically, you're going to throw it off to an angle a little bit. So here we go. See, that one went rather straight. This is my second attempt, and I changed the shape a little bit, and once again on the 7/8 plywood. That had a little bit of a curve to it. So now this is my third attempt, and this is on 3/16 inch plywood, and I think it's starting to get better. Now that was a pretty decent curve on that one. What I did is I went to the store and I bought a boomerang, this one here, right, which is a different shape. So I decided to give that a shot. This is my fourth attempt. Better, but still it didn't come back. Here is a store-bought boomerang that I purchased. Let's see how that does. And that didn't come back either. So, in my opinion, I'm thinking the last three boomerangs, the store-bought, the last two I made, are really kind of good boomerangs. It's just that my technique in throwing is the problem, not the boomerang. And I just need to practice on throwing them. So really what you don't want to do when you're making a boomerang is make it too heavy that it wants to go straight and override the wind's desire to make it turn. And you just need to refine the shape a little bit here and there as you need to be. But just note, I threw all 5 of those boomerangs the same way, and I got different results, but even the store-bought didn't come back to me, so it's got to be me. If you started watching this video for a definitive, this is how to make a boomerang and this is how to throw a boomerang and boomerangs are wonderful, I'm sorry, I'm just going to disappoint you. I don't have any definitive answers here. Throwing the boomerang was a bit harder than I anticipated, and I never quite successfully got it together. I might continue to practice, but it's a little harder than even the paperwork for the purchased one indicates. There's a couple of tips I have here. First of all, don't make your boomerang out of too thick of wood. I think what happens is the mass of this thicker piece of wood overrides the ability of your throw to change the direction of the boomerang, and what ends up happening is that it ends up going mostly straight. So that is definitely a lesson learned. Second lesson learned, this is probably my best boomerang of the ones I made. This had the best turn. A couple things on this one is that you have to have an airfoil, and I don't think my airfoil is steep enough on this one, so it's possible that's part of the problem here. You have roughly half of the width of the board needs to be this wedge shape in the back of the airfoil, and then maybe a third is the rounded over. The other thing I learned was that I was still unable to get any good results from the purchased boomerang, and that speaks volumes in my opinion, because it tells me that it's not necessarily my making that's the problem. I didn't replicate perfectly the purchased one, but I replicated, in my opinion, close enough. And the final thing that I would suggest you do is paint these things Dayglow orange or something. I spent a good 30 minutes in the grass trying to find these boomerangs after that last clip. Well, good luck. Hopefully your boomerang comes back. Good. Finally, after every woodworking project, you should always count your fingers. You end with 10. Good job.